מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. Please join me. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
So I have the distinct pleasure of introducing you to Raymond Zachary. Some of you know him. Some of our golden girls in the front call Raymond one of your own.
The golden
right?
goyles, my goyles.
So Raymond's a student at AJU. He discovered us about a year ago, maybe a little bit more. August, yeah. And the plan is for him to go on to study at Hebrew Union College to become a cantor. He's had experience as a cantorial apprentice at Temple Bat Yam in Newport Beach for about 6 years. It's a long time. Wow. Moving to LA, he began teaching third grade at Stephen Wise. That's what he does for us. He enjoys musical theater and operettas, and he recently was in a production of Little Women. And we had a chance to see him in his outfit. It's on his Facebook page. It's quite the outfit, I tell you that. You're going to hear, as you heard, he's a countertenor, right? So a few of us can reach that range, but Raymond can, which means his voice, as developed, can sing the range of a soprano, as he's developed it to do. So you're going to hear a man singing in a particularly high register, and it's rare. In fact, there are only 5 operas written for that particular range. So enjoy. It'll be a different experience for all of us. Some of us will be able to match or sing with Raymond. Some of us will be able to have a tough time finding his key, but we'll all be enthralled. All be enthralled, I can guarantee you that. So with that, we also count the Omer. Fascinating to mention, the Omer is, as you know, is the counting from the second day of Passover through Shavuot. And the question is always asked, why this counting? And why is this a time when, in some circles, certain mourning practices are observed and celebrations don't happen because of this counting? And we actually had a taste of why that was a tense time in the land of Israel, because the idea is that the rains are starting to trickle off, and then the harvest grows, and you're able to harvest your wheat or your barley or whatever it is you're looking for. And what just happened in Israel last week, tragically, unfortunately, 10 young people were killed by the flash floods that these rains brought, but there were torrential downpours that brought flooding down into the Dead Sea. So that rain also destroys crops. So the Omer is this time when you're getting ready to harvest your crops and harvest your grains, and if the rain comes too hard, it ruins your harvest. So the Omer is this tense period of counting from Pesach to Shavuot, and we think of it as the counting from Passover to the giving of Torah and the wandering in the desert, but it also is this agricultural experience that reflects on this time of tension when the rains could wipe out an entire harvest. And we just had an experience of that naturally in the land of Israel this last week. So we're going to count. We're on the 27th day of the Omer. You're going to chant, or am I going to?
I was going to chant
Go for it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו על ספירת העומר.
היום, 27 יום, שהם 73 יום שבועות ימים לעומר. Today is the 27th day, which is 3 weeks and 6 days of the Omer. It's 3 weeks and 7 days of the Omer, right?
Yeah.
6 days. When the blessing is praised to you, Adonai, sovereign of all, who house with mitzvot and commands us to count the Omer. We continue with Shalom Aleichem on page 24.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, 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 Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, 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 Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Baruchuni leshalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, 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 Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu. Tzeitechem leshalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, 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 Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu.
Continue with Lachad Odi on page 20. We're singing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. At the last verse, we'll stand and face the doors of the sanctuary. When we say Bo'ei Chala, we bow to the left, and Bo'ei Chala, we bow to the right.
Lecha dodi likrat kala פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד הוא שמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ונתילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי בורך ומיעורי, אורי, אורי, שתעברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך דילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום, העטרת בעלך, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני העם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We continue on page 28 with the Baruch Hu. Take a moment to read on page 30 and 31 one of the interpretations of Ma'ariv Aravim. Raymond will bring us together by chanting the concluding passages.
El Chai v'kayam, tamid imloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai. Hamari varavim.
Let's read on the top of page 33 together. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלפתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לעוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי להיתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
On page 41, a reading before the Micha Mocha. Join me if you'd like. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Page 43. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts. we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai aparei sukat shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim.
Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, l'shalom, ve'ha'amidenu, malkeinu, l'chaim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ותקנינו ביצה טובה מלפניך והושיענו למען שמך והושיענו והגן בעדנו וחסר מעלינו אויב דבר וחרב ורע ויגון והסר שטן מלפנינו ומאחרינו השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים ותקנינו ביצה טובה מלפניך והושיענו למען שמך והושיענו והגן בעדנו ובצא כנפיך תסתירנו כי אל שומרנו ומצילנו אתה כי אל מלך חנון, חנון ורחום אתה. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום. ושמור צאתנו לחיים ולשלום. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים ושמור צאתנו ובואנו מעתה ועד
The likes of which have never been heard at Stephen Wise Temple. I was at first surprised when Cantor Lamb hit some of those deep notes that he hit and the room rumbled. And when Raymond hit the high notes, I looked up to make sure that the light bulb stayed in. All right. If your ears are still working, please join us on page 253 and take a moment to think of someone you love who is ill, someone close to you, and hold thoughts of them in your heart as we sing this prayer of healing. Page 253. We continue with the Amidah. It's on page 46. The Amidah is said standing and silently. You can read the words on the pages on the right, which are the more traditional liturgy, or you can turn to the left and read the English as you go through. It ends on page 62. Please rise, and when you're finished, you may be seated. Well, you can say when you go to your dinner this evening that you heard something that is a rarity, right? A man who can sing in that key. And I have to say, it's a pleasure to have you, Raymond. Well, since Raymond has walked the halls of Stephen Wise Temple, he's brought us his own unique style, and there's a lot of laughing with Raymond because he's just a wonderful character to have around. The kids love him, and he makes all of us laugh too. And you know what I'm talking about, right, ladies? Because he's a fun presence, so we appreciate him. So if I were to ask you, which I am, if as a Jew you're a member of a race or a nationality or a people or a religion, how would you answer? Somebody said all of the above, maybe. Okay. Well, some of you might say it's a religion, and you'd be in good company if you said that, because we do what religions do. We pray, we speak about God, we have houses of worship, we have rabbis and cantors and prayer books and all those things, and all the trappings that seem to define religion. One can religiously or ritually convert to become a member of the Jewish community. So we have Black and Asian and brown and Latino and Latina Jews. And when they become Jewish, they don't lose their former ethnicity. They just assume a new mantle, if you will. But what about all those bagel and lox Jews? The ones who swear that they're secular Jews? That's a relatively new phenomenon, to be honest, because there was no such thing as a secular Jew in the 1800s. You couldn't be a secular Jew back then, until the Enlightenment came along and transformed Europe. And then individuals could become citizens of a particular country, and rights were awarded to individuals uniquely. You no longer had to be a member of a group to get rights, so you could separate yourself from the group and get rights as a citizen. And the doors were open to become all of a sudden now secular Jews and secular Christians, and all of a sudden atheists could come out of the closet and acknowledge that they were adherents to no religion, and yet they still had rights. That was a big deal. And then the Jewish state came along, and it even came along to challenge the notion of Judaism as a religion. Israel is filled with non-religious Jews, and they're proudly Israeli. Many even reject the term Jew, because for them it represents the ultra-Orthodox or the Orthodox, and that's not who they are. When it was first conceived, as many of you know, it was a decidedly secular state. And it was established in the minds of its founders to really reflect the modern, advanced, secular countries of Europe. When Ben-Gurion and Weizmann and Golda Meir, when they created the state, they weren't interested in creating a religious state. And when they gave certain regulations to the religious Jews, controlling conversion, marriage, and burials, what they assumed is those black-hatted fundamentalists would become or would be as benign as the Amish are in America today. Present, but not influential. That didn't go so well. So to define Judaism as a religion, of course, is limiting. You knew that. So are we a nationality? Now again, you might say, well, no, we live in this country, we're Americans, so Judaism isn't a nationality. But for the first 1,000 or so years of Jewish existence, we were a nation. We had kings and armies and queens, and we had some type of national boundaries that we had to defend. And there was even a national shrine. The temple in Jerusalem was our national shrine. And actually, anyone could worship at that shrine. There was no conversion in ancient Israel. So if you wanted to worship the Israelite God, you did it. And then when you went to the next nation, you worshiped their God. And when it came time for us to be exiled, we were exiled from our nation. We were identified as nationals in Babylon. And the term, in fact, Yehudim, which now in Hebrew, modern Hebrew means Jew, the term Yehudim, as it was first used in Esther and Ezra and Nehemiah, really doesn't mean Jews as a religion. It actually means people from Yehud, people from Judea, the nation of Judea. Those people who spoke a different language, who lived in a different region, were brought to Babylonia. They were called Yehudim, people from Yehud. And of course, those Yehudim, those people from Yehud, Judah, also had a national language, Hebrew. So if nationality adequately describes at least some aspect of what it means to be a Jew, are we then citizens of two nations as Jews in this country? Are we dual nationals? Is that possible? So maybe you'd say we're a race. Now, even to suggest that might cause some of you to bristle, because you'd say clearly not. We find that a little bit offensive. But how many of us have said that so-and-so is half Jewish or a quarter Jewish or something like that? Right? What exactly does that mean? Should we calculate synagogue membership based on the percentage of Jew you are? If your DNA comes back and says you're 100% Jewish, you pay full. If you're a quarter Jewish, you pay 25%? So if you take a cheek swab, the other way around, If you take a cheek swab and you send it to 23andMe and you get DNA tested, it'll come back and it will tell you the percentage that you're Jewish. Ashkenazi Jewish, it will say, for example, or Persian Jewish, or Sephardic Jewish. So solid science seems to support that understanding of what it means to be a Jew, that at least on some level it does have genetic markers. But how can there be such a thing as Jewish DNA if there are black Jews and Asian Jews and Persian Jews and Syrian Jews and Ethiopian Jews? How can there be Jewish DNA? And the answer is that for centuries, of course, wherever we found ourselves, in marriage was both enforced by the Jews themselves and forced on us by the nations in which we lived. And so what that produced were uniquely Jewish DNA patterns. So as we certainly define race today, on some level, Jews have racial characteristics. So if you are a certain percentage Jewish, say 25% or 50% Jewish, where does that get you? What does it do for you to claim 50% Jewishness? Well, interestingly, in this world today, the Pew think tank that polls Americans polled American Jews and asked them if they're proud to be Jewish. So 94% of people who consider themselves Jews are proud to be Jewish. And of the Jews they polled, only 19% are actually observant. So what seems to make at least some of those Jews proud of their Jewishness is that one of their parents, at least, was Jewish. So there's some Jewish DNA factor that they're holding on to. It's strange that DNA seems to make people feel more Jewish than actually living a Jewish life, but that's the nature of the world we live in. And 42% of those people polled said having a sense of humor was important to being Jewish. So I don't even know what that means. We're an odd people, aren't we? So there's a strangely, by the way, perverse aspect to our acceptance of DNA as an indicator of Jewishness, because it's what the Nazis used when they were defining who was going to be tortured and killed. They said, right, a certain percentage of Jewishness in your blood and you were going to be killed. So that if the concept of, when the idea that the concept of DNA determines one's Jewishness, or genetics determines Jewishness, is a byproduct of an offensive ideology, false science called eugenics that was practiced early in the 20th century. And it identified the Jews as having particular racial characteristics, and we know those pictures that we see in Yad Vashem or Holocaust museums of what identified a Jew racially. So it's problematic, and for us to claim that maybe is equally problematic. Interestingly, though, Jews were identified as possessing a race in the United States. And in fact, the likes of Lindbergh and Ford based their anti-Semitism on what they saw as Jewish racial characteristics. And practices like restricted neighborhoods and country clubs and hotels, well, that grew out of American racial classifications. So ironically, when we give weight to Jewish DNA in ourselves, we're somehow or another accepting a definition of those who wanted to suppress us or get rid of us. How does it make sense for us to assume that as a determinant of Jewishness? I mean, you can change religions, you can't change DNA, so you're stuck with it. So maybe you think twice now when you say someone is a quarter or half Jewish. But also, here's the irony, racial designations worked in our favor. True Jewish equality really came in this country after World War II. And so it's a relatively new idea. When Americans saw images from the Holocaust, and they saw people who looked a lot like them suffering, the compassion led them to now adopt Jews as white. Before that time, we weren't seen as white Protestant American Protestants. We were seen as an immigrant group that was different and distinct. Now all of a sudden, Jews become white, and we gain status in American society by positioning ourselves as being not black. So as black oppression continued, the Jews identified with the white community and actually gained the benefits of what we call white privilege. So we didn't resist that reclassification. Interestingly now, brown-skinned Persian Jews are classified as white racially in this country. Not sure how to square that circle, but it's fascinating. So how does all this play out in the lives of Jews? Us. Well, consider this particular Jew. And this is where it gets confusing and confounding, without a doubt. The reporter, Leah Gershenfeld-Danella, who actually produced the podcast that inspired the words I'm sharing with you this evening, well, she has one black Jewish parent, and one white Jewish parent. For her life, most people said she was half black and half Jewish. Interesting, but why is that a problem? Well, consider if someone has one white Christian parent and one white Jewish parent. Would you say they're half white and half Jewish? Why is it if you have a black parent and a white parent, you're half black and half Jewish, but if you have a white parent and a Jewish parent, you're not half Jewish and half Christian or half, right? It's interesting. But yet, if we were to do her DNA test, her DNA test would come back saying she's half black, half Jewish. So here's the interesting thing. This reporter, Leah Danella, she considers herself all Jewish and all black. Not half of anything, but fully Jewish and fully black, even though she has a white parent. That's the way she identifies. So against the backdrop of this Jewish complexity is a new reality that we have to confront in the past couple of years. And that's a 60% increase in anti-Semitic incidents, past 2 years. Largest jump since the ADL has been keeping records. So it seems, and this is where the flags get waved here of warning, that when anti-other mentality in this country rises, whether it's anti-Muslim hostility, when the white supremacists march, when LGBTQ people are marginalized, when immigrants are demonized, when poor nations of color are denigrated by American politicians, well, it seems the Jews get caught up in the waves of this animosity. So, if all this has left you more confused about what it means to be a Jew, good. Then it's working. We should stay that way. Because we need to realize that in our world, especially in this modern world, to draw sharp lines of distinction, to qualify us as sharply us and them, us and the other, really doesn't get us very far, and often it actually backfires in our faces. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors who were creating that Jewish nation, they declared that all human beings were created b'tselem Elohim, in God's image. There's incredible wisdom in that perspective. All human beings were created, they said, b'tselem Elohim. All human beings were descended from two original human beings. That's something to hold on to. So while there's much to be said for identity, for national pride, for religious particularism, certainly, taken to its extreme, and that's, I think, the lesson this evening, taken to its extreme can be dangerous and destabilizing for a nation and for a people. So it seems like the wisest path is the one of greatest confusion and greatest complexity. The recognition, ultimately, that regardless of what we call ourselves, regardless of how we identify, how we express our identity, how we determine who we are, that we are indeed b'tselem Elohim, members of one full human family. And what better words to conclude a message about what it is to be an American and a Jew than the prayer for our country on page 258. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of creation. Peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit, as we say, Amen. Prayer for Israel on page 259.
Avinu shebashamayim, tzur Yisrael v'go'alo, barech et medinat Yisrael, reshit tzmichat geulateinu.
O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield its wings beneath your love, and spread over it the canopy of your peace, and your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. So we all say, Amen.
Avinu shebashamayim, tzur Yisrael v'goalo. Amen. Selah. Amen. Selah.
Before the Kiddush, which is on page 5, it's our practice to recognize anyone celebrating important moments in their life. I found out that Irv Ginsburg celebrated his 90th birthday last week, so I'm going to bring a glass of wine out to you, Irv, to have a sip with us. Anybody else have anything they're celebrating, any significant birthdays in the crowd? Any wedding anniversaries you want to mention? Got nothing?
So, Rabbi,
What a bunch.
What Rabbi Stern doesn't know is I actually have a simcha tonight.
Go ahead.
In my classroom, when I teach here on 3rd grade, everyone gets a sticker chart, and every time they fill up 3 rows, they get to go to the prize box
Okay.
for doing a Hebrew assignment or doing mitzvah on the playground. But I've always said, anytime I see one of my students in shul, they go straight to the prize box. And tonight, I've got one. Nathan is here.
Good job, Nathan.
And can Nathan come up and help us
He can help us
make
with the
Kiddush?
Kiddush, why not?
Nathan's going to come up and help us make Kiddush. Because as we were doing our blessing book, I would ask, what prayer do we say over the challah? Borei Pri HaGafen. No, but okay. And we finally got it. So you're going to come help me make Kiddush.
What blessing do we say with the challah?
Hamotzi.
Hamotzi, all right.
Awesome.
Please rise.
All right, you get this one. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ava uvratzon hinchilanu. Zikaron lemaaseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher litziat mitzrayim, ki vanu v'charta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim. Shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. L'chaim.
Timer. Thank you. All right. Nathan, would you open the doors for the Aleinu in the back? Page 282.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרוב בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני
So the Aleinu that Raymond sang, the top was the top paragraph. And that actually captures a little bit of a reflection of what I was talking about. I'll tell you what that is. When the early reformers were creating Reform Judaism, remember it came out of Germany in the 1850s, but it really took off when it reached America's shores. 1885 was the first Pittsburgh conference. The reformers didn't like the exclusivity of the Aleinu at the bottom of the page. And it says, "V'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adamah." God didn't make us like the other nations, it says, and didn't give us a law like them, and gave us an inheritance unlike all the other nations. And these early American reformers who were finding their place in the Golden Land and seeing their place as equals among many in this country said, we can't sing as Jewish Americans or American Jews, whatever they called themselves, this exclusivist prayer. So they created an Aleinu that's the top one. So it's kept in the worship service because it's been a part of Reformed Jewish liturgy for over 100 years. But if you see the top one, basically just talks about the glory of the earth and what it is to live on earth. So that's captures the conflict that we've had since the Enlightenment about what it means to actually be a Jew. I'd like to take a minute to invite Sally Jones to come forward as a member of our board to share some words with us. While Sally's coming forward, I'll tell you that my Kiddush, my Shehachianu moment for the Kiddush is I got new lenses for my glasses. So the reason I'm stumbling over words and you're blurry, and every once in a while the words are blurry because I can't quite find the right spot. So I'm doing my best to fumble along, but hopefully by next week I'll be used to these things. Pick them up on the way up, so that's the problem. Sally.
Okay. I don't know how this... Okay. My name is Sally Forster-Jones, and I'm a member of the Stephen Wise Board of Directors. Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you to our clergy for the wonderful special service tonight. If you are new to our services, please feel free to introduce yourself to me after services, as I'd love to personally welcome you. There are some upcoming events of interest that I'm going to share with you. First, come along on our first ever Wise Fields trip on Thursday, May 10th, featuring a 2-hour guided tour of the Nethercutt collection. We will see antique, vintage, and classic automobiles perfectly restored and displayed in 2 showrooms. We'll also hear the world's finest collection of mechanical instruments and an amazing Wurlitzer pipe organ. We'll depart from the temple by bus at 9 a.m. and return at 12:30 p.m. for a lunch and a film in the afternoon. Please register in advance. So the second exciting event, which was also on the same day but in the evening, on Thursday, May 10th at 7:30 p.m., the Center for Jewish Life presents Reform Judaism, an exploration of our role and our future. Our distinguished panel, moderated by Rabbi David Woznicka, includes Rabbi Aaron Pankin, Dr. Josh Holo, Rabbi Dvorah Weisberg, and our senior rabbi, Yoshi Zweibeck. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So representing Reform Judaism is the head of Hebrew Union College overall, which was the first establishment of the Reform movement in the United States. Josh Hollow is the dean of the LA School. Dvorah Weisberg is the rabbinic school dean. And then, of course, Yoshi is the rabbi of this congregation. So different voices reflecting on how Reform Judaism has evolved in this country and how we've continued to explore what it means to be a Reform Jew and the challenges that we embrace, not face, but really embrace in terms of how we are open to non-Jews, how we welcome those who are searching, how we define even what it is to be a member of a synagogue, are all continuing to evolve, and we as Reform Jews try to be on the cutting edge of all that change. So it should be an interesting evening. We continue with the Kaddish. I know, of course, some of you are here observing, looking for support from this community and hoping the words of the Kaddish will connect you even more deeply with those you love. So if you've lost a loved one in the last 30 days, would you please rise? If you've lost a loved one in the past year, please rise. you're observing a yahrzeit, the anniversary of the death of a loved one, please rise. Now we all stand beside you as we join you in the recitation of the Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbi. B'alma divarach eutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uv'yamechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. B'agalau v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mivarach le'olam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei. V'yitadar v'yitale v'talal shmei kudisha b'richu. Le'elam min kol birachata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechamata. Da'miran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabba min Shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'akol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'akol Yisrael v'imru amen. Please remain standing as we continue with Adon Olam. It's on page 321. I can guarantee you, you have never heard it sung this way.
Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yetzir yivrach leit nasa v'chevtzo kol hazai melech shemo nikra hazai melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora ve'hu haya ve'hu ove ve'hu yeh betifara ve'hu yeh betifara ve'hu echad ve'en sheni lehamshilo le'avira beli reshit beli tachlit ve'lo ha'oz ve'ham isra ve'lo ha'oz ve'ham isra ve'hu eli ve'chai gali ve'tzur chevli ve'tzara ve'hu nisi u'manos li menat kosi beyom mekra menat kosi beyom mekra beyado afkid ruchi ve'tishan ve'havira ve'im ruchi geviati Adonai li Eloi era Adonai li Eloi era. Why not?
Shabbat Shalom.